I'm feeling very overwhelmed. So I'm looking for the right words to fully express my heart. I'm feeling overwhelmed because this is our dream, to bring together people, all the people that we work with, we engage with from different parts of the world together in the spirit of community. And so to see all of you gathered here, so many people that we have seen in so many different settings. Seeing you for the first time, and some of you meeting you for the first time. It's such a joyous experience. Thank you for making the effort to come all the way. I know some of you are coming from different countries, different parts of the US. It is truly an honor to see you all here in this room, in this space. And a deep gratitude, deep expression of gratitude from the whole Upbuild team, Vipin, Michael, CP, Hari Prasad, and myself. Thank you all for coming. This is an opportunity to, of course, meet each other. Some of you know each other from the different programs that you participate in. Some of you may be meeting for the first time, but are still connected to what we call the work. And so there is a shared language, a shared vocabulary, but we may not be able to experience the real heart of Upbuild. Our hope is that you do experience it. But now, in this event, our hope is to actually bring you even more closer to the heart of Upbuild, which is community around the spirit of service as not our egos, but our true selves. And this is what we strive to do in the work that we do. So for those of you who are new here, Upbuild is a leadership development company, and we do workshops and coaching both for individuals and organizations. And the crux of our work is in helping the individuals that we work with to understand their egos, its gifts, and its insecurities. And more importantly, step by step, learning to work more freely from the ego, from a place of the true self. And that is the spiritual core of Upbuild. The work that we do, the work that you experience from each one of the team members, the strength for that work comes from our spiritual practices, our spiritual understanding, and our spiritual experiences. And it gets translated into different contexts, but that is the engine of Upbuild. And our hope today evening is to bring you closer to that spiritual core through everything that we touch, each other, through the food that we will be having today evening, and also, most importantly, through the guest speaker that we have today with us. It is an honor for us at Upbuild to bring to you His Holiness Radhanath Swami, who is the visionary and the inspiration behind Upbuild. One of the two inspirations and visionaries behind Upbuild. The other one, who some of you have met, Radhanath Swami. We run because of the vision and the inspiration that is being given to us over several years by these two very realized and very experienced individuals. Radhanath Swami is my guru. I have known him, or I should say he has known me for 29 years now. I'm still learning to understand him more. And He has guided me in every way possible that I can think of. His love, his care, his corrections, his very subtle and very sensitive guidance at very crucial times, and his deep wisdom and insight. I don't have words to explain. He has inspired several spiritual communities across the world, and specifically in Mumbai, where I first met him in 1997. A growing, very thriving spiritual community of thousands and thousands of people who are mostly regular professionals working in many different kinds of jobs, but who live very, very deeply spiritual lives. And it's exemplary to watch that community in action under the inspiration and guidance of His Holiness Radhanath Swami. A phenomenal hospital, a school, a midday meals program that feeds 300,000 children every day in Mumbai, and several other projects that are all inspired by his spiritual depth. So this is his presence in my life, and his presence at Upbuild is the biggest gift we have. And today we want to share the biggest gift that we have with all of you. So without further ado, I would like to welcome His Holiness Radhanath Swami to share his words of wisdom on the topic, finding meaning in a world of achievement. Thank you. Yes. So the way the evening will go today is we will have a talk from Radhanath Swami for about 35 to 40 minutes, followed by a Q&A, and then we will proceed to dinner and interaction with each other and getting to know each other more. And for some of you who might have already read about Radhanath Swami's life in the book The Journey Home, and for others who haven't yet, today hopefully you'll get a glimpse of the person behind the journey. Okay, but I highly, highly recommend that if you haven't, please do read The Journey Home. Thank you.
Om Agyantimidandasya Gyananjanachalakaya Chakshurun Militam Jena Tasmahi Sri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirbhishesha Shunyavadi Astyatyadeeshatharine Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patithanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasati Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. I am sincerely grateful for this opportunity to be among all of you this evening. Thank you for coming. In this great, could anybody hear me? Yes? In this great city of New York, you have so many alternatives of how to spend your evening. Almost limitless. And yet you have chosen to be here. I'm very grateful to you. And I'm very grateful for the Upbuild leaders and community for inviting me. Thank you. I was asked to speak on the subject of building a meaningful life in a world very much obsessed with achievement. The natural question is peace of mind, inner fulfillment, the awakening of spiritual love, contrary to an ambitious life seeking achievement in this ever-changing world? And in truth, they are meant to be complementary with one another. This wonderful building we're sitting in, it's actually quite extraordinary. Very New York City type of brick walls, kind of Roman pillars. Wonderful, spacious, high ceiling. But whatever is within this building, whatever develops, whatever decorations, whatever happens within it, it's all supported by a foundation. And this is universally throughout the ages a great emphasis. In order to have a fulfilling life based on a higher purpose, we need to establish a very strong foundation. And that foundation is our values. What we're doing, how we do it, why we do it, and who we're doing it for. When I came to New York a couple of weeks ago, I actually came with Radhanath from Washington, D.C. on a train. I believe it's called Amtrak. I live in Bombay, India, so I'm not so familiar with terminologies here. But we were sitting on this train and we were together reflecting on so many higher ideas. It's a very comfortable train. It was air conditioned. In fact, it was so air conditioned, I think I got a cold. And we had some simple bread we were eating. And it was going really fast. And we were discussing the idea that the train may be nice, and what we're doing inside the train might be very enjoyable. But the purpose of a train is to bring us to a destination. The destination was ultimately to be with you this evening. And life is like that train. Do we have a destination? Do we actually have a purpose? In the Bible, Lord Jesus tells that if you build a house on strong rock, then whatever inevitable storms may come, the house will stand. But if you build that house on shifting sand, it may be beautiful, may be spacious, may be full of all sorts of wonderful facilities. But when the storm comes, it will collapse. In Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna tells the same principle, that success and failure, honor and dishonor, happiness and distress, victory, defeat, fame, infamy, honor, dishonor, these things are always coming and going. But what is our values? What is our purpose? And what is our character? That is what is going to bring actual meaning and fulfillment to our life. I was some time back in the home of very wealthy people, and their basement of their mansion was a huge facility just for toys and games for their one child. And they brought me down there to show me. There were, simple games and toys and rides and all these high-tech ways of entertaining. But when I spent time with the child was really miserable and was trying to escape that misery through all these games and all these forms of entertainment, because the parents created all those facilities so that they could just work. They had no quality time for the child. And ultimately, what the human heart is seeking is to love and be loved. And without that, there could be no real fulfillment within our hearts. All of these things can bring some type of satisfaction for some time, to the senses, to the mind, but things cannot bring any fulfillment to the heart. The child was dressed really nice and was really busy, passionately playing these games. Trying to escape the loneliness within himself. And interestingly, a few days later, I went to another place, and there was a child the same age, and he had a large pumpkin, like a squash, kind of long, and he was playing with that pumpkin. He was riding on the pumpkin. He was using the pumpkin as a club to fight demons, and he was and he was rolling on it, and that's all he had, but he was completely happy because he felt loved and cared for by his parents. If we're satisfied within ourselves, whatever abundance or whatever simple things we have, we're grateful, we're happy. And at the heart of it all is to love and to be loved. And to live by this principle is where our life actually has meaning. I'm a Swami. I have no immediate family, except my parents, brothers, sisters. But I see a lot. A mother, a father. You may be really focused on your child getting a good education, but do you push them at the expense of their health? Is a mother not equally concerned with the child's health as the education that they're getting? That's love. It's not one or the other. It's a balance of both. And perhaps the greatest need in this world is balance. The idea of unity and diversity. There's so many diverse needs in life, and achievements are part of that. But we need to unify the needs of our family, the needs of our health, the needs of our responsibilities to society, the needs of our occupation. When we were on that train, there's 2 tracks that facilitates the train to move forward. One track without the other will just not work. I'm remembering some years ago, I write this story in a book that I wrote. I was sitting in a holy place at the confluence of 3 rivers, the Ganges, the Jamuna, and the Saraswati River. The name of the place is Prayag. And just a couple years ago, I was there again. It was the time of the Kumbh Mela. which is probably the largest gathering of human beings in the world. How many people came this last time?
You had said 500 million. You had said 500 million.
The government, I believe their statistics were over 500 million people were gathered in the same place over a month. And 3 of those days is when the maximum amount of people came. But when I was there, it was summertime, and the same exact place where all those 500 million people are squirming and struggling to get to, I was sitting there absolutely, completely alone. And as I was sitting, I saw a beautiful hawk soaring in the sky, going in circles. He looked really hungry. And there was no living being that I could see anywhere around except me. And it's in a sandy riverbank. There were no trees there. There was no grass. It was just me, the sand, the water, and the hawk. He had very glistening, intensive yellow eyes, sharp pointed beak, and long, sharp claws. He was coming down, and he looked like he was staring at me. And I was just sitting in the sand, looking up at him. He was only a few yards above my head when suddenly he dove right into the river and went underwater. I was watching. There was some sort of skirmish underwater, of splashing and splashing. Then the hawk emerged from under the water with a fish in its claws. That fish was squirming and flapping and struggling helplessly. And it was so close. It was about as far as where Hari Prasad and Radhanath are sitting, from where I was sitting. And I could see the fish's eyes look completely bewildered. What was happening? The hawk brought him high. I don't know if it was a girl or a boy, the fish, but brought the fish higher and higher and higher, and then farther away until it went out of my sight. I was thinking, what am I supposed to learn from this? The fish was just like anybody. It was going about its daily activities. Probably swimming upstream, swimming downstream. May have been, with its lover or with its family, seeking food, enjoying the nice fresh water, just going about its life like any other day, with no expectation. The least expected moment, the hawk of destiny ripped that little fish out of its comfort zone and literally took everything away. it is said that for some, the idea of death makes a higher purpose of life quite meaningless. And for others, the inevitability of death reveals the deeper and higher meanings of life. If that fish was swimming deeper in the current, the hawk could not reach it. But because it was swimming on a superficial, shallow level, it was vulnerable. And similarly, the inevitable changes of this world, how it affects us, is very much determined by how deep our values, our character, our purpose, and our interconnection is in life. I was a teenager in the 1960s here in America, and a common saying was, people are living very shallow. We would call it plastic, shallow, superficial. And we are seeking something deeper. And that is a principle that is so often overlooked because we're distracted by the apparent need for achievements. That train that Radhanath and myself are on, whether it's going fast or whether it's going slow, we went on that train because we wanted to reach a destination. What is our purpose in life? What is it that we want to achieve? Through our education, to our families, to our careers. What is the legacy we want to leave behind for our children and our grandchildren? Just a few years ago, one of the most powerful, successful, and historical industrialists and business people of India passed away. He had actually achieved things that no one else had ever done in the country. Tens and thousands of employees, huge amounts of wealth, fame, power. But at his memorial service, after he passed away, nobody talked about his money, his career, his groundbreaking business and industrial achievements. They spoke about his character, his charity, how many people he helped, how much hope he gave to hopeless, how much comfort he gave to the suffering, how much spiritual direction by his example he gave to people who were lost. People were crying with so much appreciation and affection because of the values and the character that he lived by. and his children and his grandchildren, he left them not only with the great achievements and the wealth, but he left them with that, with a life of purpose and spiritual value. The Bhagavad Gita tells that, like an ocean, in the monsoon season, which is actually happening at this time, there are rivers that are sometimes a mile or more wide, pouring into the ocean. And in the dry summer season, sometimes those same rivers are dried up or just trickling a little water into the ocean. Apuryamana machalapatishtam. But the ocean neither overflows during the monsoon season, nor does it substantially shrink during the summer season. Why? Because the ocean has its own depth. It's not so much affected by the circumstances around it. And this is a definition of integrity, of character, is the principles, the values that we hold sacred in our life are not disturbed by the circumstances that happen around us. Honesty, compassion. These things bring inner fulfillment. This beautiful example of the ocean is very similar to the example of the fish in the river. When we have depth in our life internally, that gives us a conscious state that transcends the ever-changing circumstances that happen on this shallow level of external experience. Bhagavad Gita was set in a setting that is perfectly appropriate to the title of tonight's discussion. Arjuna was a warrior, and he was on a battlefield. It was one of the most massive battles that was about to take place in world history. One side was motivated by exploitation, greed, arrogance. And Arjuna was on the side to actually protect the innocent people of the world from that exploitation, arrogance, and greed. Sirens, good sound effects for what I'm speaking. And Arjuna was there, and Krishna, who is an avatar, an incarnation of the Supreme Lord, he was driving Arjuna's chariot. Arjuna asked Krishna, please take my chariot so I could see who's on both sides of this battlefield. And when he saw the situation and he understood what was imminent. He actually just wanted to run away. It was just too complicated and painful. But yet, it was his duty. And when you're fighting a battle like that, you definitely are ambitious to achieve. It's not that, well, whatever happens doesn't matter. The 700 verses of Bhagavad Gita that was spoken to Arjuna was to teach him, you must do your duty. You must strive to achieve the best you can be, but with spiritual, moral, holistic values and character, built on a foundation of truth and the inner satisfaction that comes with that truth. The leader of the other side of this battle was Duryodhana. And Arjuna and Duryodhana, when the battle happened, they were actually doing the same things. In those days, they used bows and arrows, and clubs, and organizing their military phalanxes, and strategies. From an external perspective, if you were just looking down, you would see Duryodhana and Arjuna were doing exactly the same things. What was the difference? One was doing it with inner satisfaction, with meaning, with purpose, with compassion. One was doing it with humility, the other was doing it with arrogance. One was doing it for greed, and the other was doing it with a sense of generosity for others. One was doing it with utter selfishness. One was doing it as a service. One was defending immorality, and the other was defending the morality of protecting the innocent. And who worked harder? Sometimes we think if we're not really focused on our achievements and we leave aside all of these moral values, then we can be more successful. We have more motivation. But that is a misconception. Is greed a more powerful motivating force in our life than love? A loving mother for a child, does she have hours? Does she have one of those clocks where you punch in? She's 24 hours on call to give her everything if it's necessary when a child is sick. The most powerful force there is the force of love. From a spiritual perspective, in Bhagavad Gita it is said that everything is the property of the Supreme. Everything is the property of God. And for a little bit of time, we are entrusted with some of that. Are we grateful for the intelligence that we are given to develop and expand? Or do we just think it's mine to use the way I want? Am I grateful for the abilities I have and the opportunity to improve them? Or do we just think this is mine to use any way I want? A spiritual principle is to recognize that in this short little lifetime we have, whether we have a lot or a little, we utilize whatever opportunities and facilities to our highest capacity. Why? Because we want to make a serious, beautiful difference in the legacy we leave in our life, in the example we live by. That child who had the whole basement of games to play was actually seriously miserable. And the child with the squash was actually really happy. But if the child in the basement had the love and the attention of his parents, he would have been just as happy. It's not a matter of high-tech games or a piece of squash. It's a matter of the inner fulfillment that we are achieving through our relationships. When we're connected to our own hearts and essentially our own souls, then we can, with such quality, such meaning, and such affection, we can connect with other souls. This is also a primary teaching within the Bible. What profited the person if they gain the whole world, if they lose their eternal, immortal soul? And in Bhagavad Gita, there's a beautiful verse, Yad yad acharati srestas tata evetarojana. That people who actually achieve great things, maybe fame, maybe money, maybe influence, maybe incredible abilities, such persons, they have the greatest responsibility to live by example. We are trustees of sacred property. To live with gratitude, to live with love, does not make us dysfunctional in the world around us, but motivated with compassion, motivated with affection, motivated by goodness. Will we not work even harder than somebody who's just motivated with ego and greed? Because we have a higher purpose. Building a life that's meaningful in a world obsessed with achievement the subject is so relevant. To establish within our lives, within our hearts, this foundation of a meaning and a purpose in our life. From a spiritual perspective, it's understanding that I'm an eternal soul. I'm seeing through my eyes, I'm hearing through my ears, I'm tasting through my tongue, I'm thinking through my brain, and I'm loving through my heart. But this body and this mind are like a temporary dress that we're living within. It's a residence. And the nature of the soul is we're a part of God. To experience the infinite love of God and to reciprocate by being an instrument of that love in our life. That is a universal spiritual principle beyond sectarian views. To be an instrument of divine love, is there a greater motivating force than that to live with? And nothing and no one can ever take that away from us. Not even death. We could see infinite hope in every situation when we make this connection to the beauty and the glory of our own spiritual nature as a soul, as a recipient of the infinite love of God, which is there for everyone. From a moral culture perspective, it's simply a more fulfilling, deeper, meaningful life when we live with compassion, when we live with humility, and when we live with gratitude. Most history of great personalities that we remember in a positive way are people who made profound sacrifices for a higher cause. Who live with fairness for the rights of others and compassion of others, and who are willing to endure great hardships for that purpose. In one sense, that's why children love their parents, because they did that for them. When we come to a country, Abraham Lincoln, or in India, Mahatma Gandhi, people who made great sacrifices of themselves for the well-being of others. That's greatness. And actually, when we have a moral or spiritual connection of these values within our own lives, then those sacrifices, enduring difficulties for the well-being of others, giving, is profoundly more fulfilling to our hearts than anything else. And it comes, this foundation comes by especially associating with people who either have that deep compassion, that deep spiritual, moral connection, and creating a community of people who are striving for that. Because association has so much effect on us. Often parents understand about their little children how they will be so much molded by who they associate with. And that is the beauty of Upbuild. It's a wonderful community beyond all sectarian or social differences. It's a community where people come together to help one another, to really connect to a truly meaningful, fulfilling purpose in life, and help one another not to be distracted by the inevitable influences that are around us. This year, within our spiritual society here in New York City, we're celebrating the 60th year of when our guru, our spiritual teacher, came to New York from a holy place in India called Vrindavan. When he was asked, "Why did you come?" his reply was, "I've simply come to remind you what you have forgotten." That you're a part of God. Your innermost nature is Ananda, the joy of love. To receive that love, and in whatever we do, our words, our actions, even our thoughts, how to transform them to be offerings of love. And although he was about 70 years old when he came, his name was Srila Prabhupada, and most of his students were in their 20s or teenagers. Nobody could keep up with him. He was so tireless, totally humble, totally giving, not expecting anything from anyone. But year after year after year, tireless, because he had something so beautiful to give. He started from being homeless in the Bowery. When he came from India, he had no help. And after today, there's about 600 beautiful temples and communities, millions and millions of followers, hundreds of millions of publications. And he never claimed any credit for himself. He's just trying to serve. This personality I was speaking about in India, he began his career in a very, very simple way. And there was so many reversals and so many hardships and so many difficulties, but somehow or other he worked so hard and he developed so much. But he was really frustrated. And then he met a person in a community that actually gave him a true spiritual meaning to live with. And he strived with a clearer understanding of why and for who. And he prospered historically and tremendously. And yet after he passed away, it wasn't his worldly achievements that he's remembered by. It was the content of his character. I believe Upbuild is a beautiful, beautiful expression of these wonderful leaders' hearts to help people to really find true happiness and be instruments of happiness, whatever we may do. I thank you very much.
We are very blessed by your words, Radhanath Swami. Thank you. You are the inspiration behind Upbuild, as Radhanath shared. So whatever you're speaking about Upbuild is a reflection on yourself. And we're all so moved, or I am so moved, and I hope you all experience what is the inspiration coming from him. That is our whole desire for this evening. So we have an opportunity to ask some questions. I will bring the mic to you. You can just raise your hand. Kendall.
Hello. My question is about, in your book, The Journey Home, you describe an experience where you're sitting on the banks of the Mother Ganga, and you recount that you hear 1,000 celestial voices singing Om to you. And it was in that moment that the mantra was revealed to you as well. It reminded me of the Bible passage where St. John speaks of being in the Spirit on the Lord's Day and hearing the sound of rushing waters behind him. And I'm curious if you can speak to what that experience was like and what it meant to you.
I felt completely unworthy and grateful. And I tried to process that feeling of unworthiness and gratitude in a way that I could reciprocate by sharing that with others. Thank you.
Jeremy?
Thank you so much. I was wondering if you could speak a little bit about the relationship between trust and discernment, or trust and doubt. And I'll recount a story that I also read in your book. During your seeking, you met with many teachers, one of whom, just a biographical note, was someone that my father encountered, Guru Maharaji. And I was struck by your discernment of that individual as someone who was not maybe a good teacher for you. And so as you were talking earlier, I was thinking about, you mentioned this metaphor of a house built on strong rock versus a house built on sand. And I realized that my life has been really a house, spiritually at least, built on sand. And so I'm seeking to rebuild that foundation at 50. And so I have a lot of issues between trust and discernment. So I wondered if you could speak about that for someone who's a late in life spiritual seeker.
We all trust, but are we trusting the shifting sand, or are we trusting the rock? And that requires discernment. When we understand what are those qualities we're seeking, and we find a people, a community, a lifestyle, a philosophy that represents that, and we build our trust like that. In many ways, every religion is meant to be like that rock that we could build our life upon, every spiritual path. Believe on the currency of American, it says, "In God we trust." At least it used to. Does it still? When I was a boy living here, it said, "In God we trust." I think it's still there. But in many ways, that was the foundation of this country. And unfortunately, oftentimes we try to use the idea of God to suit our own egoistic or selfish purposes. And therefore, when we actually see, a truth that brings about, real compassion, real self-satisfaction, that truth has meaning. And when we put our trust in that, then we could really build our life on something that will be beautiful, not only for us and our families, but for the world.
John.
Maharaj, thank you so much for your mercy and kindness in being here today. So great to see you.
Thank you.
You talked about the power of love as the most powerful force. And you talked about the gratification that one can enjoy through service done properly. I've had some sense of experiencing that sense of gratification through service, but yet I feel oftentimes a sense of internal resistance when faced with the prospect of providing service. And given what you said, and I agree with, you would think that I would throw myself into service so willingly at every opportunity. And I wonder, does that get better over time the more one serves? Do you ever experience that? What is that internal resistance? I can name it as laziness and ego, but do you have any thoughts about how to be aware of that and to let it take its own course away from the service opportunity? Thank you.
inner connection is very much required. We have our cellular phones, and they could communicate, and we could do so many services through our cellular phone. We could do good services, or we could do very negative services too. Is a cellular phone a positive thing or a negative thing? It could be used for the most horrible negative purpose, or the most beautiful positive purpose. Its value really is in the hands of who holds it. And that holds true in every way. Is education a positive thing or a negative thing? Education, science, if people with positive, compassionate motives are using that information, then it will give great prosperity to the world. If people are using it for evil, it could cause the greatest destruction in the world. And we see throughout history this is what's happening. We have abilities. They can be used for beautiful things or for the most horrible things. So if we're striving to utilize our cell phone for something positive, in order for that to have sustainability, we have to plug it in to get charged. And in the same way, we need recharging to maintain our values, to maintain our compassion, to maintain our enthusiasm. And sadhana, or spiritual practice, plugs us in. It charges us. It gives us a connection. And satsang, associating with like-minded people who value these things. That association, that community charges us, infuses us with enthusiasm, with trust, with faith, even in challenging and dark times. But then, when we have good education and knowledge by a good community, and we're infused with spiritual energy through our practice, then it all has meaning when we actually utilize these gifts with character, by living according to these principles. Because the nature of the mind and the nature of the world is things are always changing. Sometimes it's a really stormy day and we really don't feel like doing anything. The world gives us every reason to complain. The world gives us every reason to criticize. But those things alone they should not define our life. We should be seeking saragrahi. We should be seeking the essence of the opportunity of what we could do in the service of God, in the service of humanity, in the service of all living beings, in whatever situation we're in. And the distractions actually help us to grow when we are plugged in properly. Is that answer your question. Thank you.
I see Kendall has another question, but I'd like to give someone who hasn't asked an opportunity before we go. Rahul?
Thank you for a very thought-provoking conversation. And I was thinking about what you were saying around externally, Arjuna and Duryodhana are doing the same thing, right? And when we talk about striving, when we talk about even service, like we were just talking about, I feel like for myself, and building on Jeremy's point around internal discernment, I'm not able to discern whether my motivation is pure and it's coming from a place of love, or if it's coming from a place of ego and wanting to be viewed as someone who serves, someone who gives, someone who's generous, rather than that being an expression of the Spirit. And so the question that I have is, one, how do we discern that? And two, what is the process of transforming from potentially an egoic motivation to a spiritual one?
That is through our connection, through our spiritual practice, through cultivating proper knowledge of the science of life itself. Through prayer, we chant God's names. Through spiritual practice, we're actually focused in on those spiritual values that we're seeking. And the more we're focused in on those spiritual values, with our sincerity, we can understand the difference between the motivation of ego and the motivation of compassion. If our mind is clouded, it's hard to discern. The Bhagavad Gita describes that what is religion is taken to be irreligion, and what is irreligion is to be taken to as religion. So this is a matter of our own personal sincerity. And then it's obvious to us. Thank you.
Anyone else? Kendall?
Is it all right if I ask a second question?
Please.
My other question is, in the journey home, you describe casting off these relics of your former identity as Jerry Slavin, where you give away your black vest and you renounce the name monk and the name that you were given when you were born, and at one point you throw your harmonica into the Ganga. And what I've found is, while trying to live the principles that you described, oftentimes interacting with friends who I've known for many years, or even family members who think of me in a certain way and not where I want to go, that I find those interactions sometimes pulling me back to an identity that I'm trying to let go of. And I'm curious if you have advice on how to navigate that.
thinking of various stages of my own journey. Actually, I didn't have to give up any of those things if I knew how to utilize them all in God's service. But that was my journey to shed the egoistic identity of myself and interactions with the world in order to understand who I really am and how to interact with the world. There's the false ego and there's the real ego. The false ego is I'm just this body and this mind. I'm a man or a woman. My skin is black or white or red or yellow or brown. I'm from one nation or another nation. I'm rich, I'm poor. These are all temporary designations. Who am I? I'm that sacred, beloved child of God that's within, that's giving life, that is the life and the consciousness within me. And then the things of this world, what is to be discarded and what is to be accepted is not necessarily just the thing, it's the purpose in which it's utilized. In those days, if I had this microphone, I would have thrown that in the river too. But now I'm very happily using this microphone because I have a higher purpose for using it. In those days, I wouldn't sit on chairs either. I consider chairs to be vanity. I would only sit on floors. But now I'm happily sitting on chairs with all of you. So as we understand our real ego to be instruments of God's love, then all the things of this world, actually we understand a deep meaning and purpose for all of them. It's not that enlightenment means negating the world. It means seeing the beautiful potential of the things of this world. Thank you.
Oh, I see a couple of hands. We'll take a couple more questions. Patsy?
Hi, Swamiji. I'm Patsy Eisenstein, and my question is pretty vulnerable. I have trouble reconcile the idea of that I am an eternal soul and my nature is Ananda, with that I am the consequences of a chain of karma that I don't understand, and I'm a householder. I live in this world and I have lots of duties, and there are situations that seems very difficult to face on a day-to-day basis, and I like to understand how I can, in addition to my chanting and sangha and spiritual study, I like to hear you shed light on how I can reconcile this, two seemingly very extreme ideas that merge in this body here. I don't know if our question is clear, so I pray that that you get what I'm trying to ask. Thank you.
How do you Prasadji, could you help me understand her question?
I think Patsy is asking, if I'm representing correctly, that she doesn't experience the ananda or the bliss of the soul because of the experience of life being difficult and being a householder with responsibilities and challenges. It feels disconnected. So how to reconcile that and actually experience more beyond what you've already spoken about it? Is that capturing it? Okay.
That's what the train of life can bring us to. We're not there. We're not feeling the eternal nature of the love within the soul beyond birth and death. We're not in that deep place in the river or the ocean where we're not affected by the hawks of destiny. We're not there. But we understand that that is our potential. And we live our life like on the train where we have a conviction and we have an association that's helping us to follow that North Star, that compass, that this is what actually is the most meaningful, the most beautiful, and the most true thing of life. And we move in that direction. It's not that we need to be self-realized to follow the path of self-realization. The path of self-realization means we're not realized. But if we want to reach New York, we just can't take any train. We have to take a train that's going to New York. And we have to stay on the train. So basically, whatever you're speaking on behalf of everyone. Grateful for your honesty. Would you like to add anything?
Everything you say is perfect. Nothing more is required.
If everything I say is perfect, then add something.
If it serves you. I would just double down on what Radhanath Swami already shared about practice and association, satsanga and sadhana. Right? Satsanga is association and sadhana is practice. It's very easy to have a mindset of, I meditate sometimes, or I have my daily meditation practice, and I meet up with good people, they're even spiritual people. But it's a different thing when you commit to it and you realize this is actually the value of my existence. It's completely different. Night and day. Actually, the Bhagavad Gita says in 269 that what is night for all beings is the time of awakening for the self-controlled. The time of awakening for all beings is night for the introspective sage. Strong contrast. So someone who is dabbling spiritually versus somebody who is on the other side realized it's a night and day difference. Which side do we want to be on? How much are we willing to stake for that?
And New York is the city that never sleeps. Thank you very much.
We'll take the last question. And your name? Evan.
Thanks so much. Thank you so much. So nice to meet you. I loved your book, Journey Home. My question is maybe a very basic one, but how achievable is the self-realization? And I was wondering, Journey Home ended quite early in your life. I'm curious, like, what has that self-realization been like since the end of the book, and maybe, like, what is that internal experience like? Does it get quite easy at some point, or where you have pain and hurt and you just accept it all and it's not bringing you down, or what? Could you talk more to what that's like?
The gratitude of the beauty of the truths and the culture and the life that I have been blessed with. In my own way, I'm trying to reciprocate by just sharing it. Love is not something to keep. Love is something to share. The more we find love, the more we want to share that love. And the more we share that love, the more we recognize the abundance of love we have. In giving, we receive is actually one of the deepest spiritual principles, because it's the nature of love itself. And in my life, God's love, we call God Krishna, all attractive. That love is the most beautiful gift we just want to share. And challenges come both internally, externally. That's inevitable. But a person who's in a sporting event, I believe this year the New York Knicks became world champions. When they're playing the game, at every moment there's challenges. At every moment there's uncertainties. But somehow or other, we just adjust at every moment because we have a goal, we have a purpose. That's the way life is. Life is filled with challenges. But the real success is not just being world champions. The real success is we're in the culture of love, is that we're giving the best we can, as honestly and sincerely as we can. That's truly the success of life, and nobody can impede our victory. If we're sincere. Thank you.
So let us thank Radhanath Swami, the founder. Is there anything you wanted to say in closing?
Thank you very much.
So grateful for all of your being here. It's extremely meaningful. I'm so happy that you come to hear spiritual wisdom. As Radhanath Swami said, you could be doing practically limitless things here. And whether you're living in New York or close by or very far away, we're extremely, extremely honored and welcoming of you. We also would encourage you to please take what you've heard very seriously. Don't let it go from you. Something has been given. We want to take stock of what that is and how we can apply it into our lives personally, individually. And it's also good to have accountability, to speak to somebody else about what you'd like to do with what you heard, what you've received personally. So we invite you to really think and apply and perhaps discuss, get accountability. And we are very eager to support you in every way we can. That's why we exist as Upbuild. So on behalf of our team, we're super eager to support you. And one very good venue we hope that we can offer to you is our weekly online gathering. It's a satsang called Remembering Who We Are. Some of you are regular attendees. Some of you have dipped in here or there. Many of you we've not seen there before. But it's 12 p.m. Eastern Time every Wednesday. Today, of course, we didn't have because we were preparing for this, which is more than worth it. But we are meeting weekly to try to recharge, to be plugged in, and really develop the kind of spiritual character and ultimately love that is inherent to self-realization. So please, we really would love to extend that opportunity to you. It's nourishing for us as a team. It's actually our team's spiritual start opened up to our community as a service to try to share the wealth of what we receive when we try to go deep spiritually together. So please come register for Remembering Who We Are if you're able and inspired. Jeremy? Thank you. There's no cost to attend. Jeremy, you're very kind. Yes, there's no cost to attend. We do it because we love to do it. I mean, that's the case with everything at Upbuild, but in this case, we don't have to ask anything. So please just come. And please read Radhanath Swami's books, hear from him any opportunity you have. And please meet each other tonight. We will have dinner. I think it's now nearly ready to go. And it is a special meal. Radhanath alluded to this. It is cooked with love and offered as a spiritual nourishment for us. So it's sanctified, and I hope you experience that. Yes, there's also water in the back. There's a water filter on the back left. If you need anything at all, anybody on the Upbuild team will be happy to help you. Thank you very, very much. Thank you again, Radhanath.